Yes, you have a winning strategy, but do you even know how to use it? And are you able to pull out millions out of the market? Let's take a moment and just reflect on my Thursday trade that you're seeing right over here. Obviously, on Friday, we then had a really good trade. I mean, we just, then capitalized on that pip. But I want you to check out this losing trade right over here. So the good thing about me is I am always going to be transparent with my losses, right? Whenever I take a loss, you are going to know, because in trading, that's the reality. You are never going to have a 100% win rate. Well, unless you have an insider, a person that's telling you about, when to buy and when to exit and all of those things. The markets are ever changing, right? So you have to know when to exit the market when you are wrong, and then when to ride your winning positions when you are right? So that was me on Thursday. As you can see right over here, we took a loss. Now, this loss really annoyed me because I should not have taken this loss, right? I should not have traded the way I did. But I was excited for what? For the breakout of this Nasdaq, right? You already know that the Nasdaq has been breaking out of those highs, and we have been capitalizing, riding up those highs. And I forgot for a moment that the market is ever changing. So right over here, this was CPI at the zone. And guess what? I personally caught CPI. This is a CPI trade that you're seeing right over here. I caught CPI, but I did not want to give the inner circle the CPI trade because we were already in a gold trade, right? So we caught CPI on gold with the inner circle. Was a perfect buy. As you can see, these are the results over here. But I also wanted to give them a Nasdaq trade, right? So I waited for it to spike up. Right, I had entered for the spike, and then when it retraced back, right, you can see right over here, when it retraced back to the zone, I wanted to go in for a break and a retest, right? So what I'm saying, what really annoyed me is I did not wait for confirmation. And I think if you have been watching our videos and you're just looking at what I'm saying right now, it already makes sense, right? Why on earth would I buy at this zone when we did not have a break and a close outside, right? I am always saying that you should wait for the breakout. Yes, we had a breakout, right? But I already saw this week, it was like a really good week. I'm like, nah, it has already broken out. So technically, there's a low chance that it's actually just going to close inside of the zone. And then guess what? It did close inside of the zone. And then the next candle closed inside of the zone again. And we were already in the buying positions with our stop loss right below this support zone right over here, and then we're already in the buys, and then it just went down to the bottom. If I had taken 2 minutes to wait for the 30-minute candlestick to close and finish, I would have noticed that this is now a week. The sellers, look, the buyers pushed this market to the top, and they could not hold the market at the top. The sellers started dropping the price, right? So a lot of people were at the zone, right? Probably would have selling position or whatever. They were panic buying when they saw it breaking out, or, CPI is chaos, right? So there were a lot of trades at the zone. And then when it actually just pushed up, all of those people that had selling positions were taken out of the zone, and then the market started to drop because a lot of people started to panic buy, right? And then it dropped the market down. Whenever you see something like this and then it closes with such a big wick, there's a high chance that it's just going to drop down right to the bottom. And for that reason, I was not pleased with myself for not waiting for confirmation, especially on my 30 minutes time frame. I always like to wait for confirmation on the 30 minutes time frame. So if we go on to our 15-minute time frame, yes, we had a break and a close, but then the next candlestick should have been my confirmation to know that no, in as much as the buyers pushed the market for CPI, the second candlestick closed inside. It was such a bearish candle. You can see that the sellers really stepped in with so much momentum at the zone, and then we had all of these like indecisions candles later, and it had so many chances for me to exit this trade, but I was really stubborn until it hit my stop loss, and we eventually took a loss at the zone, right? So from my mistake, you can actually learn not to just jump into impulsive entries, right? It doesn't matter even if you're trading with the trend. Whenever you take a loss, yes, you should admit that you were wrong. The market is never wrong, right? The market is going to act as the market should act. But I should have, waited for confirmation at the zone and not taken that loss, right? But then overall, we had a really good week. I just was not really happy. We could have had a really clean week because we absolutely had a nice week. As you can see, the inner circle, weekly status right over here, we had a brilliant performance, even though this is in the free signal group. So this is not the updated one. I can show you guys the updated one right over here in the inner circle. We eventually then had a total of 620 pips, which was absolutely beautiful because the Friday trade really then moved, way better than I expected. You see the Friday buy right over here. We actually then just, rode the trade to the top. It was an absolutely beautiful week with just a loss on Thursday right over here, right? So make sure, learning from my mistake, that you always wait for confirmation, be it at a rejection or at a breakout. Don't always, go in for panic buys or panic sales at those zones. Also, just wait for confirmations and you're going to be good. But how you guys doing? I am doing absolutely lovely, and we're super excited for this particular week, and we're about to jump right into the weekly analysis. But before we do all of that good stuff, if you're new to the channel, welcome. We trade Nasdaq over here. If you're returning, welcome back. You already know what's up. Don't forget to hit the like button, turn your post notifications, and subscribe to the channel. At the moment of recording this video, we are 75 subscribers short of hitting 10,000, right? So you already know the lit giveaway coming when we hit 10,000 subscribers. So just hit on that subscribe button, you know what I'm saying? So obviously, before we start anything to do with the weekly analysis, you already know that we are going to go on to our investing.com to check out what news events we have for this current week. We enjoyed CPI and we also enjoyed the producer price index, right? So we had an absolutely beautiful week, which was also profitable regardless of the loss that we took. And for this week, you can see that we only have Mr. Powell on Monday speaking at 7. So we hope to be done trading before he starts speaking, right? Because I hate it when he speaks and I'm not yet in my trades, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Friday, we don't have news. These news are not really, those crazy types. Nothing too crazy. We can just, manage these ones, and they're not also, read for the type of news. So right onto our charts for the first time in a while, right? We are not talking about Nasdaq breaking the highs or sitting at the high zones right over here, right? And we managed to capitalize on this particular trade because we had a little zone right over here. You see the market came and it started to range, and then we also had a trend line like this. So I know a lot of people who have, been deceived. We always like to trade against what everyone is thinking, right? So not forgetting the fact that we are also on an uptrend, right? We should always be looking for buying positions, right? So a lot of people would have, people try to complicate things, right? The fact that we are on an uptrend, you should always look for buying positions more than selling positions. At this zone, a lot of people would have noticed this. Would have probably looks like a breakout of the trend line, and, look like a little range right over here, and then they would have taken a sell. That's why it just then pushed up to the top. It also had to come and close off this gap that it had over here, and then that's how we then capitalized on this particular trade. Normal price action and the fact that we are on an uptrend, so we wanted to capitalize on the same thing, right? So looking at our market for this current week, nothing too crazy, as I am always going to say. So right over here, we are starting at the zone that it broke out of, right? So you always want to mark up these zones. So the zone that it broke out of, that is most probably supposed to be retested, right, in normal cases, right? So we're going to mark that up, and then obviously we're going to mark up the highest point that it had. Considering the fact that we are not going to have a lot of news, it is going to be pointless to mark up the highs because I doubt that the market would actually push up to those zones, right? So our trend line is always going to be for a guide right over here, but I don't think we really need it. So just so that it doesn't look ugly on our charts, I am going to delete it and then mark up the only things that we are looking at. And then obviously we're going to have this zone right at the bottom right over here. So technically we want the market to retest at the zone. So we're saying that if it rejects right over here, right, we're going to capitalize and going for our buying positions. If it plays around in this zone, obviously we also want it to reject here, but then there's a high chance that if it now plays around in this zone, it will break out unless this, bank zone holds it at that particular spot, right? So let's go on to our lower time frame. We can already see that we had an impulse move right at this spot right over here, right? And then you can see that the market is starting to form a little build up right over here, right? So the next thing that might happen is it will play around at the zone and give us a possibility of drawing a trend line. So depending if it forms a week, we'll use the week like this, or if it forms, it just starts from there as a body, right? We'll take it like this and then draw it. So we're saying that if it rejects like that, we're going to be using this trend line as our guide to ride it up, depending on how it actually opens, right? But then for our horizontal lines, just as simple as we always do it, we want it to reject here with good price action and then breaks out of the little range that is going to form. It's definitely going to form a little range because when the market opens, there's not going to be a lot of momentum unless it opens with a gap, right? So here it's going to form a little range. So we want it to break out of that range. If it does break out of it, then we're going to go in for our buys. Let's say the range looks like something like this, right? So probably look like this, something like this, right? Yeah, if it breaks out of this zone, then we're going for our buys because nothing is holding this market technically at this spot unless this zone would now then hold it. But then obviously we're going to be targeting that particular zone. But if it doesn't hold here and then goes down, we're going to be looking for buys in this region right over here. And then if it now comes to the zone, we go back to that previous video that I had of, liquidity zones. And then if it breaks out, we just ride the sell. So nothing complicated for this week. Simple and straightforward as we always do it, right? So if you did enjoy that video, don't forget to hit the like button, turn your post notifications and subscribe to the channel. You feel me? With that, it's Vintino and I'm out. Peace.